All right, what does this all mean with this morning's news, the Bears to Indiana? How real is it? That's what we are going to discuss. Is there any chance for Illinois to get back in the game? We also, well, we'll see. We're going to see how this goes. Is it all going to be stadium stuff today, or are we going to hit some other things? We're going to decide as the show goes. We want to hear your thoughts as well. CHGO Bears starts right now. Welcome in to the CHGO Bears Podcast inside our very enjoyable and nice Xfinity loft here in the West Loop of Chicago, Illinois, where the Bears play football for now. Adam Hoge alongside Greg Braggs. It has been a busy morning. We got Stephen Nicholas producing. Everybody on our team here has been working hard this morning to cover the stadium news that dropped in Indiana this morning. We had an emergency pod earlier. I encourage everybody to listen to sort of the raw reaction. We covered it on Hoge and Johns as well. And understandably, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure we're going to see it here in the comments, and hand raised, still part of myself, wondering, is this actually really going to happen? So we will continue to report the news. I'll bring you all the insight I have. Continue to be gathering. I know the governor spoke, Governor Pritzker, a little while ago that I was just catching up on a little bit. And we want to hear your thoughts as well. But, Greg, what are you thinking right now?
I mean, my head is certainly spinning since this morning. I think all of our collective heads are spinning because, I mean, we were anticipating some news coming out today, but I don't think we were exactly imagining the gravity of what was going to come here as we woke up this morning. I certainly didn't. And, you know, it's kind of sent everything into, a frenzy, right? I mean, Bears fans and the organization and the media, we've been talking about this for months, and it just feels like it's a never-ending conversation. And now to kind of reach this point, as you kind of called it this morning, on the goal line, it's surreal. You know, as I said on the breaking news show, as someone that is born and raised in Northwest Indiana, 40 years living in the region, I'm proud of that. I'm just equally as proud of being a Bears fan. And you know, everything of what the Chicago Bears have meant to me as a fan and where it's taken me in my life, being able to sit here on set like that, the Bears did that for me, right? So I owe a lot to the Bears. I owe a lot to the region. And the idea that those two worlds are about to potentially combine is crazy to me. And I also just, looking at it just solely from a Bears fan perspective, I just can't help but feel really sad for many Bears fans who didn't want them to move out of the city. And not only are they not just moving out of the city, they might move out of the state. You know, how many times have I sang "You're the pride and joy of Illinois" in the stands at Soldier Field? And you can point to the Jets and the Giants, or you can point to, you know, the Chiefs or the Rams and all these different teams that have moved out of their city. It just feels a little different with the Bears moving to Indiana.
Yeah, there's just like an emotional component to it that just feels a little weird. Maybe that changes over time. Now, so I think, you know, as the dust sort of settles here and we get into the early afternoon compared to this morning when all this news was breaking, And now the Governor Pritzker's had a chance to respond, and I'll just kind of relay some of this. But Governor Pritzker, this is from Brendan Moore, who's been doing a great job reporting on all this. He's an Illinois government and politics reporter for the Capitol News. He tweeted, Governor Pritzker talking to reporters in Collinsville says it is, quote, very disappointing that the Bears would put out a statement, quote, but not say anything about the advancement that's been made in the state of Illinois. He said that they, quote, mostly agreed on a bill before the team hit pause. Governor Pritzker went on to say that Kevin Warren, quote, chose not to be in the meeting yesterday, in which the team and state officials, quote, mostly agreed on a bill, end quote. The Bears, the governor said, told his staff today that their statement, quote, was not some confirmation that they're moving to Indiana. I do think that that is clear, important to clarify. So what actually happened in Indiana today was this Ways and Means Committee hearing, which the Speaker of the House of Indiana just sort of detailed how the infrastructure was going to work, how it was going to be paid for, that the Bears were willing to commit $2 billion to all of this. And then they kind of went one by one with a bunch of different people talking, and every single one of them talked as if I'll be honest, they talked like this was confirmation that the Bears were coming to Indiana. And simultaneously, the Bears put out their statement, which is a fair point for Governor Pritzker to bring up. Is not necessarily confirmation, but it is a step in the direction of, and they said it in the statement, it was the most meaningful step forward towards a resolution for their stadium. I think what Pritzker's team is, why they're upset about this, is because they did have meetings yesterday. I did know that Kevin Warren was not in those meetings, that other Bears representatives, some of his top aides, were the ones representing the Bears. By the way, Governor Pritzker was also not in those meetings. So it was like the governor's team and the Bears team putting stuff together. Now, I do think it is true that they made progress in all of this. And then they decided to hit pause late last night on this Illinois meeting, that was this hearing that was supposed to be happening this morning. There was a couple of different issues because I think, A, the bill wasn't done, and B, this gets really into the political jargon of all of this, but it does matter. The sponsor on the bill that was being heard this morning, or was supposed to be heard and called on, is a representative from Arlington Heights who's not actually in the discussions. So, but I don't think Pritzker knew that the Bears were going to put out a statement this morning in which they gave Indiana a lot of credit for moving this whole thing forward. And I do understand why they're like, well, hey, wait a minute. What about everything that happened yesterday? So they feel a little caught off guard, even though I was told that they were giving them a heads up about this Indiana development last night. So there's a lot of back and forth talking here. I think that's part of the problem. So, isn't that part of the problem here? Why we're here?
So again, how real is this? Because the way it felt this morning is that it's a done deal.
Well, Indiana was making it sound like that. And then the Bears statement, I think, led in some credence to that. But it is fair to point out it wasn't like confirmation. Hey, this wasn't some team.
So what do the Bears have to do to change the momentum so that they are back to being the favorites?
What does Illinois need to do?
Yes.
You mean? What is Well, I don't know, because I think I'd love to know more, and I don't know this right now, exactly what progress was made yesterday. I think, okay, if you want to look at this through the lens of this is still just the Bears playing hardball and creating as much leverage as possible, okay, let's go with that. Then, Governor Pritzker also said they're waiting for the Bears to respond. They're basically putting the ball back in the Bears' court, saying, hey, wait a minute, we had these discussions yesterday. We made this progress. I think if you're Illinois, you got to kind of swallow your pride here a little bit. And, as upset as you might be that the Bears, released this statement this morning, try to put that aside for a second and get back in there and advance what needs to be advanced on the Illinois side of this as soon as possible.
Which is financials. That's all this comes down to, right? And so the question is, can the Bears or can Illinois do enough to make a financial pitch that the Bears will then choose them over Indiana. Because right now it appears to me that there is no scenario that they can come up with a better deal than Indiana, but can they come up with something that's close enough that the Bears can say, you know what, it's close enough from a sentimental value standpoint, we want them to stay in Illinois?
I mean, only they know the answer to that. But I do think you're laying that out correctly in that I don't see a world in which Illinois can put a deal on the table that's better than the Indiana deal financially.
So then the question is, have the Bears completely scrapped any sentimentality? Is it now just flat out, Indiana can give us the best deal, and if you can't come to that, then we're going to Indiana?
I don't know, but I do know that we talked about this on yesterday's show. I mean, the Bears have, I think the Bears have gotten to the point where they're done like with the niceties, and they're like, you backed us in a corner where we've been waiting. This could have been done last year. This is our only move, and they are all in. They're going to be all in on Indiana, I think, until the shovel goes in the ground. And that is one thing I do want to bring up, because we talked a little bit on the earlier shows today, and maybe I can tell the story again, but I won't do it right now. But just what happened with the New England Patriots back in 1999. I mean, the deal was done, but until the shovel actually goes into the ground, I think there's always at least a sliver of hope that Illinois can get back in the ball game. Okay, and when we're still not there to the point where a shovel's going in the ground, because we don't even know exactly where around Wolf Lake this thing is being built. So until we have renderings,
apparently that's going to come out today, like 3 p.m. Central.
That's going to be this press conference.
There's going to be a press conference at the mayor's office, and it's my understanding that that's what they're going to present, is what the plan is going to be. And from what I've been told is that it's going to be south of Wolf Lake. And if you're familiar with Hammond, Indiana, and that area, there's a civic center, there's a pavilion where they have concerts during the summer that I go to every year. There's a golf course called Lost Marsh, which if you've ever played that course, make sure you bring 78 balls, because you're going to lose 48 of them on the first 5 holes. But that's all within the same city block. Mm-hmm. You know, the pavilion and the lake is on one side, and then on the other side of the street is Lost Marsh. So that, I think, is where they are thinking. But, again, 3 p.m. Central, there's going to be a press conference at the mayor's office. Adam and I both plan on attending this show, that presser. We're going to keep this show nice and tight for that reason. And it's my understanding that's where some of this is going to get presented.
Yeah. So, but that's great. I mean, I think Indiana's just doing what they can, everything they can do. And I mean, I think if, I watched that, I was kind of writing and working and answering phone calls from Stephen and Greg in the middle of all of it. But I watched 70% of that hearing this morning. And this is just the difference. Governor Pritzker can say, we are making progress. We almost had a deal yesterday. Like, again, I'll bring this up. He had the opportunity to say that publicly yesterday. He was interviewed. He was asked that question, and he sort of punted on it. Whereas you watch this hearing this morning in Indiana, and everybody's all in. Everybody's in agreement. The vote was 24-0 in this committee. And there was joking, and there was laughing, and there was celebrating, and some of it might be premature celebration. Don't get me wrong. But on one side of this state line, there was full agreement over how to get this done to get the Bears, and on the other side, there's politics. Like there's just there's finger pointing. It's happening today. It's happening this morning. It's back and forth, and I just think the Bears are done with it. So if Illinois wants to finally put together something that says, here's the tax certainty, here's exactly how the infrastructure is going to work, here's what you're responsible for the Bears, here is the final deal to actually start getting shovels in the ground, and then you can make a decision. I think that's what's ultimately got to be put in front of the Bears here. Otherwise, as I've been saying all along since this Indiana thing started, it is not a bluff. They are willing to do this. Leverage, yes, but it's not a bluff. They have the cards. A bluff is when you don't have the cards. You're bluffing. The Bears have the cards in Indiana right now. That is what's important to understand here.
Okay. Well, I never believed you until this morning.
I think a lot of people were the same way.
I was one of those too.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did.
I don't know that I fully believe myself.
And even still, right?
You know?
Like, because it's just one of those things. And I don't, I mean, let's take a timeout because I think that we can, continue this discussion I was in Hammond, Indiana this morning. I drive through it every day to come to the studio. And so I stopped at Wolf Lake and took some pictures and some videos to kind of provide you guys some visuals of what that area is like. And if the Bears were to move there, kind of what you would expect.
But first,
got to give a shout out to my good friends over at Xfinity. I call them my good friends because I am a proud Xfinity customer while I hang out here in the Xfinity loft. Shout out to Xfinity. And listen, I'm going to ask you, what if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi, and if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? Well, that is the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, like a super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. This is what you want. It helps you stream the game even when the whole family's online. Nothing worse than when you're fighting over that Wi-Fi and the signals aren't working. Well, that's not what happens with Xfinity. So take it from me. A lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, but your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable. So lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity and learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only and restrictions apply. And of course, also got to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Hooters. And here, February is almost finished, but every Tuesday in February, your wing cravings can make a difference. So Hooters is donating a portion of chicken wing sales to the Holy Family Schools, helping fund tuition, books, classroom supplies, and more for kids in under-resourced communities. My mom and dad were both teachers for 40 years, and I can tell you just how important this cause is. They've raised over $1 million, so let's keep it going because kids can't fly without wings. And hey, March Madness is right around the corner. The Big Ten tournament's right around the corner. Hooters is still the best lunch spot for you. So cheer on your favorite teams from any of the 11 Chicagoland Hooters locations and check them out at originalhooters.com, the absolute best wings that you'll ever find.
all right, as we continue the conversation, the big stadium conversation here on CHGO Bears today, it is time to check it out with our friends at Old National Bank, and we are going to check out beautiful, lovely Hammond, Indiana. Greg, take us on a tour.
Yeah, let's start with the video, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind kindly. So this is Wolf Lake here. Go ahead and play it.
Well, that's a highway.
And it's right off of the toll road. And there's the pavilion that I was talking about where there's concerts, and this is normally where the fair is. That's Wolf Lake, and behind it is the toll road. It kind of hooks around.
It kind of splits the water.
Yeah, it does split the water. So this is apparently south of the lake, which that's what this is. And if you look here on the backside as this video ends, that's Lost Marsh Golf Course right there. That's the fourth hole. You'll lose many balls on that hole, and I have many times. But this is Hammond, Indiana. This is apparently where they are considering putting this. And then here's the other video, because this is Lost Marsh Golf Course. So this is the other side of the road of where the video you just saw of like the Civic Center on Wolf Lake. So it's quite a bit of space, but what's the first thing you notice when you see all this space? A lot of water.
Yeah.
A lot of water. So I get it. There's a lot of area there. There's a golf course there, but there's also a lot of water there. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around, are we talking about just a stadium? You know, every other proposed thing that Gary Portage, Arlington Heights has put out shows, more of a Bears landia, all this like a Bears district.
Right.
So trying to understand exactly how they're going to put this together. And if you kind of walk through, you pulled up the casino here, Steven, just to kind of give people more of an idea. This is the Horseshoe Casino. It's literally 4 minutes from the video that I've just taken. So there is a casino in the area.
And that's where the actual Lake Michigan is.
Correct. And right as you come over past the casino, this is your view coming into the city. So as you can see, there's the skyline in the background. That is roughly the distance of Hammond, Indiana, in consideration to where Chicago, Illinois is. I was literally on the phone with Steven and Hoge from the clubhouse at Lost Marsh, and we started a group phone call for when I took this picture. And then by the time I was in front of Comiskey Park, just to give you guys a relative idea, it was 16 minutes from when I was at the clubhouse parking lot at Wolf Lake to being in front of Comiskey. Yep. So like that's how far. It's not far from Chicago. So anybody that thinks like Indiana, Illinois, and thinks it's this really long distance, it's not.
No, it's not. By the way, I did see your golf ball under that tree.
Well, that's my thing. If they're going to rip out Lost Marsh, I'll be disappointed, but they better let me go get all my golf balls back.
That was interesting. We were having a conversation, and I asked you guys who owns Lost Marsh, and Steven looked it up. He said it was the city of Hammond. So that's interesting to me. So I guess we'll learn more about that later today at this press conference.
Yeah.
Ideally.
And I want my balls back.
You got to return every single one of them Hammond. There's
that.
90. There's 97 golf balls, clarified golf balls that Greg has deposited there. By the way, that is Checking It Out, sponsored by Old National Bank. Every play matters, whether it's on the field or in your financial life. The best teams win by delivering excellence at every level. Old National Bank, where relationships and results matter. Member FDIC. I see a lot of people in the comments, probably understandably, and I don't think it helps that it's February and everything looks gray and it's cloudy today and the grass is all dead and dormant because it's February. I'm sure it looks a little bit nicer in the summertime. But if you're making fun of it and being like, so there's nothing there and it looks like crap and all, that's the point. They want to develop this area. I thought you, on our emergency pod today, brought a perspective that I certainly can't understand because I'm not from Northwest Indiana, about how, especially like the Lake County, Indiana area of the state is sort of like caught in the middle, where Indiana doesn't treat you guys like you're part of the state of Indiana because you're like part of Chicago, but Chicago also doesn't really consider you part of Chicago because you're in Indiana. It's an awkward spot where I think it explains why you have Gary, Indiana being what Gary, Indiana is. Lack of development at time. Like, there's just probably not enough attention paid to an area by either the state of Indiana or the state or the city of Chicago, excuse me. And so the whole point of this whole thing is that and I heard a lot of this in the hearing this morning that I watched, in how important this would be for bringing Northwest Indiana and, making it more of a benefit to the state of Indiana and vice versa.
Right.
The state of Indiana helping Northwest Indiana finally by virtue of the Chicago Bears moving there.
Well, exactly. They're taking advantage of Illinois, right?
100%.
So the state of Indiana, in a lot of ways, and maybe not completely, some of this I do look from a sports perspective. So just to give you an idea of sometimes when I say, Central Indiana, Indianapolis, they ignore Northwest Indiana. Well, the best example I can give is there was a girl out of East Chicago that was a great basketball player. Like, she should have won Miss Basketball. And they gave it to a girl from Indianapolis who was not better than her. It was not even close. But, we don't get considered because we're not from Indiana to them. Like, the voters don't even look at us like we're Indiana till we show up down, for state finals. And so we always kind of take exception to those things. But from a political standpoint, this is the state of Indiana going, all right, we might have ignored Northwest Indiana more than we should have, but now we can take one of the biggest assets of Illinois and make this area profitable. Yeah. So this is their opportunity to slam dunk on the state of Illinois in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
Oh, I think it 100% is. Now, I also think it raises a ton of questions, though, about who's really benefiting from the Bears playing there, and perhaps even more importantly, if they do get a Final Four or if they do get a Super Bowl, how that revenue sharing, who's getting what, right? Like, and I don't know. I just have a million questions about that part of it because if the Bears do execute this move, like Illinois is going to be pissed, Chicago is going to be pissed. But you need Chicago to host a Super Bowl because the Super Bowl, like Radio Row, would be at McCormick Place probably.
So you bring up a good point, and we went through this, right? We went to San Francisco, and the Radio Row was in San Francisco. The game was in Santa Clara. The players were staying in San Jose. All were like an hour apart from each other. So like none of it was centralized. And like where the money was going for these events, right? But at least they're all in the state of California, right? Yeah. Whereas this, if they were to have a Super Bowl, Illinois would want the majority of the events to be in Chicago.
Right.
But would Hammond, who would agree to build this stadium, take exception to you not putting the events in Indiana?
Right.
Like, well, hey, we built you the stadium. We gave you this great deal. You can't take all the events that surround the Super Bowl or the Final Four and then put them in Illinois. So I agree with you in that, like, there will probably be...
It's just awkward. It's awkward to me. There's a lot of awkwardness to this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's awkward for Bears fans
and honestly, it takes me back to when Chicago almost got the Olympics. And for me in Indiana, you work in construction, like we were like, come on, let's Illinois. Illinois was like, please don't have the Olympics. This is going to ruin our, like, there were so many people that didn't want it. There were some that did, but there were many Illinois residents.
Very polarizing.
There were many Illinois residents that didn't want it. Well, I can tell you every person in Indiana was begging for it.
Yeah.
Because all our money, all our work, all our news, all our food, it comes from Chicago. So, yeah, I mean, this kind of just like reminds me of everything that happened with the Olympics, which looked like it was coming to Chicago, and then just completely hit a dead end.
It was laughable how much it didn't have a chance.
Right, and so now it's the reverse, right? Mm-hmm. Where I thought it was laughable of the Bears ever coming here, and now it's the reverse. So, like, to me, this is pretty surreal.
Yeah. All right, let's Brandon Johnson, the Chicago mayor, was in our studios about a month ago, maybe a little bit more than that at this point. And we did part of the, I know everybody loved that we talked to the mayor. But part of the reason why you do that is because you can put these guys on record for stadium developments, and as much as people don't like when politics cross over in sports, this is a perfect example of how it just does. And so we asked Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, what he thought about this idea that the Bears could move to Indiana. And here's what he said. This new, and the Bears they came out and said it, the words Northwest Indiana.
That's a terrible idea.
That's a terrible idea.
Well, tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chicago is the premier destination for so many different reasons, right? I mean, the fact that we actually have, I believe, the most dynamic, unique, prime real estate right now, where 20% of the world's fresh water is in every single view of the stadium. The fact that there was a commitment to build up fields even around the stadium to make it a 365 public use, public benefit, the impact that it will have on the museum campus, right? There are so many other economic benefits to the Bears being on the lakefront than just the Bears, right? It's the entire campus. And so, for me, there's no other place in Illinois or even in the surrounding area outside of Illinois that has the infrastructure, the grit, the character that the lakefront has. And so to me, I believe it would be a disservice to the fandom to take this historic franchise out of a prime real estate space where the number one or top destination for tourism, which is actually along that museum campus, to take it outside of the city of Chicago.
So I get all that. The problem is, what's the benefit for the Bears, though, from being there? Like, it's great for the museum campus. Look, don't get me wrong. The pictures, the drone shots of the city and the skyline and the water, and it's awesome. I love it. I'm from Chicago. I love it. I love the city. I miss the city. I love coming down here, honestly, as much as I complain about the traffic, to be in the city. Because if I didn't come down here, I probably wouldn't be down here much at all, right? So, but what's the Bears' benefit? Because they have a stadium at Soldier Field that they're not treated well as somebody, they don't get what they need. They are asking for improvements to the stadium. The Chicago Park District doesn't cooperate, all these things. And they don't own it. So when Morgan Wallen comes here this summer to play there, or who played there last year? Oasis.
Metallica.
Yeah. I mean, there's whatever. Pick any of the big shows that they, concerts that they have there. They don't benefit from it. If anything, it rips up their field.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the problem here and I think the Bears are, and I keep saying this, just fed up with that. The history, it's great that they've been here since they were in Decatur when the franchise started, okay? But go back and really study the history of the Bears Stadium, okay? First of all, they played at Wrigley Field for pretty much just as long as they've been at Soldier Field. Like, people don't realize that. They moved to Soldier Field in 1971. Okay, so they were in Wrigley Field for 50 years, essentially. And it's been just a little over 50 that they've been at Soldier Field. And Wrigley obviously wasn't perfect, right? For a million different reasons. It being a baseball stadium, the football stadium barely fit in it. That's why they eventually moved. But go back to when they even went to Soldier Field in the first place. You can look up stories about how they were interested in Arlington Heights back then. And so they've always been trying to come up with a better stadium solution throughout the history of their franchise. And I just think they're at the point where, especially when you look at what's going on across the NFL, the stadiums that are being built, how much these businesses are blowing up, right? They have to look out for themselves at some point. From a revenue standpoint, if you want to be the fan that says, I want my team to act more like an NFL franchise does, this is an example of them doing that.
Right. And the Bears not only have looked at Arlington Heights, they flirted with Indiana before in the 90s. And it was obviously met with a lot of eye rolling, but there is a history there. So, even George Halas, the first team he ever played for professionally in his his football career was with the Hammond Pros. Mm-hmm. So there is a bit of irony there as it comes full circle in that regard. And I definitely think about that because that was always my biggest sticking point, was the idea that George McCaskey would be willing to let this happen. I've always looked at him more of a person that leads with his Bears fan heart first over being a shrewd businessman, owner of the Chicago Bears. And you definitely have felt like that's changed over the last 5 to 6 years, bringing in Ryan Poles, who ripped the team to the studs, bringing in Kevin Warren, this whole stadium deal that's kind of gone on. And there's been other examples, moving the Bears from Bourbonnais to Lake Forest for training camp. There was a lot of different moves that have happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years that have kind of changed the way the Bears have done business and the way that George McCaskey has operated. And so I always kind of wondered, was this a bridge too far? Because I always knew how much Virginia meant to him, right? And obviously his family's history and tradition. And what would George Halas, somebody that, he did play for the Hammond Pros, but, he not only built the Chicago Bears to what they are today, but he built the NFL to what it is today. And what would George Halas be thinking of the idea? I honestly don't know that question. People that actually were around George Halas might be able to help me out with this. But how would George Halas feel about this? I genuinely do not know. And I always kind of thought that George would if he was to ever do this, like, to me, it would represent a failure of his holding as the owner of the Bears to move them out of Illinois to Indiana. And clearly, I'm mistaken on that. Clearly, because it looks like no, I'm the Bears owner. I'm going to do what's best for the Bears. And I just thought that he would never come across this threshold.
Well, but maybe but I think that's what's changed. I think that there's a thinking inside Hallis Hall now that this is best for the Bears. This is the best stadium deal for the Chicago Bears.
Right.
Now, I am still on the side of I think Arlington Heights is a good compromise because they're still going to own that land, even if it ends up being more expensive. And I think that's one of the things is like the long-term benefit versus weighing what's the best short-term deal is always got to be part of the conversation too.
Right, because they might be able to get a better deal financially from Indiana. But the thing I will say, I've gone to Arlington Heights. I stood at the Arlington Park when they were tearing it down or when they made the announcement 4 years ago. We went to the town hall and they showed the entire plans for not just the town, the Bears, district that they were going to build, but also the surrounding town and the infrastructure on the highways and stuff. So I've been to Arlington Heights. I've seen that town. I've seen how it operates there. I live in Northwest Indiana. I was just standing in Hammond today. I can tell you right now, this is no offense to the region who I love very dearly, but Arlington Heights is a much nicer area than Hammond, Indiana. It's not close. It's also closer to the airport, so there's other advantages in that regard. So I do wonder, is this best for the Bears? If you are trying to get Final Fours and Super Bowls and national championships and Big Ten championships and will people embrace these events in Hammond, Indiana, the way I know they would in Arlington Heights? Because there's a lot of developing that Hammond will have to do after the fact. They might build a stadium there, but how long is it going to take to lift that area up to the standard of what these kind of events, to me, deserve?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a hard question to answer. I'm trying to think of it just in my own mind. Like, tell me, hypothetically, the Big Ten championship game is being played in Arlington Heights, and let's just take in my school, Wisconsin's not in it, right? Like, so it's Indiana, Ohio State's playing. This past Big Ten championship game is happening in Arlington Heights. I live in Vernon Hills. Am I going to try to go to that? I think there's a good chance I probably would if tickets weren't ridiculous. If that same game is being played in Hammond, Indiana, I'm probably not going to go that far to go to it. However, that's me. If I'm
from a money standpoint, if you're trying to go to Arlington Heights to see a game versus going to Hammond, Indiana, to me it's going to cost less.
To go to where? To
Hammond.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be able to get a hotel in Maryville right down the street. You can come hang out at my house. Like, whereas Arlington Heights, it's a higher level of living out there. So if you're trying to go to a hotel, book hotel rooms for the Big Ten tournament or whatever, it's going to cost more to see a game and go to events like that in Arlington Heights. It's going to be nicer. It's going to be a lot nicer, in my opinion. Like, the downtown area of Arlington Heights where they have the bars, it's really nice there. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is.
And Hammond is just not at that same level.
But what I was gonna,
it's an older town.
Yeah, what I was gonna say though is but that's just me because I live in the North Burbs. If I live in the South Burbs, I'll go to Hammond, Indiana, right? Wouldn't you?
Well, my house is pretty much, I'd say, even distance to Arlington Heights or Hammond. And as a consumer of the Bears, I would rather go to Arlington Heights. I would rather the team be in Illinois. That would be my preference, and I think a lot of the people in my area would have the same preference. But if you're talking about money, yeah, Hammond is a cheaper area to stay in, to do things in.
And as of right now, the traffic is way easier to get to Hammond from Chicago than it is to get from Chicago to Arlington Heights. Now, obviously, that would change dramatically if they put a Bears district in there. but it's still I still because there's even more take out the sports traffic. There's just normal traffic from Chicago to Arlington Heights that is built in every single day. There's very little traffic when you're driving from Chicago to Hammond, depending on the time of day you're going.
So the one thing what I want to bring up here though is, so I'm trying to put this in a way that might make sense to everybody watching. So let's just imagine your whatever job you have, you're being lured by a competitor to come work there instead, okay? And they're offering you a way better deal, money, benefits, the whole deal, okay? But maybe from an optics standpoint, you're concerned about, working for this other company versus who you work for now and are comfortable with, right? That's kind of the situation they're in.
So you're talking about Adam Johns leaving the Athletic to come to CHGO.
I wasn't, but if you're gonna go that route, yeah. I was in a similar situation once.
Yeah, I was gonna say you, but I figured I'd bring Johns into it. I'm sure he loved that comment.
So I just, I think, but that does matter, right? That does matter, the optics of it, and
you're rolling the dice.
But the point of me bringing that up though, is you're eventually going to get to the point where you have to make a decision. Okay, and if one side is giving you everything possible because you have all the leverage, and they're saying we'll give you this, and this, and this, and we really want you, and it's unanimous, and Brandon Spano and every other person in the company's calling you nonstop, versus the other side. Even yesterday, Governor Pritzker is being like, well, whatever the deal is with the Bears, we're going to make sure that it's good for the taxpayers, just like any other company or corporation that would be coming to the state of Illinois. I'm so tired of hearing that. This is not the same of a corporation coming from somewhere else in the country to coming here. This is the Chicago Bears. They've been here for 105 years. And they matter. Is there another company or corporation in the entire state of Illinois that matters more than the Bears?
No.
I'm being serious. That would matter to the most common person in the state of Illinois than the Bears.
That's just what I said to Jake earlier, because he was like, people have moved over from Illinois to Indiana. Illinois residents come over to get cheaper gas, to get cheaper fireworks, to get cheaper cigarettes. I was like, yeah, but this is like moving the Sears Tower to Indiana. That's how much of the Chicago Bears are an institution. So
that's what I mean. So please stop with the rhetoric. Like, it's insulting to me as somebody who just grew up here in Chicago as a Bears fan, in the actual city, to compare this football team that means so much to everybody to the I don't know, Haribo gummy bears being across the state lines in Wisconsin. If you've ever driven, in Pleasant Prairie and seen that over there. It's not the same thing. It's the Bears. And so imagine being the McCaskey family with that rhetoric. Wouldn't that insult you?
Sure.
I just think, it's not the same thing. I'm not saying the Bears should get a tax-free, fully funded stadium. But again, that's not what they're asking for here. All they're asking for is tax certainty and the infrastructure around the stadium, and they're going to fund the stadium. So I get their frustration. All right. Let's take
3 stadium shows today. There is some irony to Mark Carman going on vacation and the Tyson Bagent trade rumors, and then the Bears moving to Indiana, as it's like when the Colts moved out in the middle of the night. That's what they're doing to Carm right now. Oh, he's in San Diego. Let's ship Tyson Bagent and the Bears out of here.
I mean, it's the optics of that I do actually find pretty funny. Like he called me this morning.
It's ruining his vacation.
He's like, can I come on this emergency pod? And I'm like, to be clear, we're not making you. You're on vacation. But he clearly wanted to get his thoughts in there, which I totally understand. All right, we'll take our last time out, come back, and share a couple more things with you before we get out of here. It's been a fun day. It's been an interesting day. We got more coming up, but first.
Want to give a shout out to our friends over at Old National Bank. Whether it's on the field or in your financial life, the best teams win by delivering excellence at every level. At Old National Bank, they believe every play matters. From everyday checking to long-term planning and commercial banking, our team with Old National Bank is here to build momentum and help you move the ball forward. It all starts with a plan tailored for you by professionals that you can trust. From simple tasks to bigger financial moments, you can count on them to coordinate your needs with steady, knowledgeable guidance that brings clarity and confidence with each step. It's a partnership designed to help you feel supported, not just today, but well into the future. So whether you're celebrating a win, rebuilding after a tough loss, or gearing up for whatever comes next, Old National Bank has your back with tools, insights, and an expert crew that's always in your corner. Old National Bank, member FDIC, where relationships and results matter. And you know what else matters? Our good friend Ray Scarpelli and the friends over at Ray CDJR. And new vehicles are in store today at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And this is your chance to score a great deal at the Auto Show sales event. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, get 0% financing for 72 months on new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram models. Over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. And they give you the raised price promise where you can shop confidently with no add-ons and no hidden fees. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They have been serving the community since 1963.
All right, one last segment here on CHGO Bears as we kind of wrap up the stadium conversation. We did have, I think Greg has some more photos to show you.
Sure. We've got more photos.
We also have some super chats here.
We have some super chats. We'll run through a few more photos. We'll just a full out stadium show. I want my credit for doing stadium shows and not crying about it. Here is Lost Marsh.
There's your golf ball.
That's 18. So that's 9 going.
What fairway am I aiming at?
So the left side is the 10th hole.
Okay.
And it kind of hooks up towards those trees.
Got it.
And then the right side coming at you is the 18th hole. And in the summertime, it's gorgeous. I love Lost Marsh. There's some people that hate it, but I love it. It's definitely challenging. This is the first hole, Hoge. So you'd like this. Okay. That's where you tee off. You see that little island green in the back with the bunkers? Yeah. That's the first hole.
That looks
nice. Then the second hole hooks back towards us.
Okay.
The first 5 holes of Lost Marsh are insane.
So we're a golf pod now? We're just doing golf?
Yeah, we're doing golf pod.
Golf course?
We're doing golf pod. This is the opposite side of the street, though. This is at the Civic Center looking across at Lost Marsh. So we're going to get an update here later today on exactly how this layout is going to be. And so then this is the other side of the street turning back towards Wolf Lake and the pavilion in the Civic Center. Where they have a fair during the summer, and they have, many events there. And that's the bridge many of the local residents take across to go to the Civic Center for the fair and the concerts that are there. Brothers Osborne and Old Dominion and Nelly and Lil Wayne. There's been all sorts of it really is. They do 5 days of concerts there, and they'll have one day where it's a rap artist. The next day it's a country band, and then they'll have somebody that's old school, like Styx will show up or whatever, and it's fun. And the one thing that's disappointing for me is like that concert venue is kind of like our little secret. Mm-hmm. No one goes to it. So like I've seen Brothers Osborne and Old Dominion, and we paid like $30, and we're literally the first, like right on the stage essentially. And so no one ever knows to, like, you try to go to, Windy City Smokeout or,
right,
it's a nuts. But there, nobody seems to ever go because it's like this little secret. And now the secret's out.
It's kind of like when, like your White Sox fans will be like, I like when this ballpark's empty. Because I can sit wherever I want.
Right.
I don't have to stand in line. Now the secret's out. Yeah, I get it. Let's get to some super chats, too, on the way out here as well. It'll be interesting to see where – I want to see what the renderings look like and what the plot of land actually is. The Iceberg coming through with 20 CHGO Sports YouTube memberships. Thank you, Iceberg. That is very nice. And then also says congratulations to Hoge and Johns on reaching 30,000 subscribers, which we did do today on the YouTube channel.
Congratulations.
Well, long overdue, so we appreciate that very much. Bretzels 96, $5 says, fun fact, Hammond used to have an NFL team in the 20s. Notable Bears Hall of Famers, Bobby Driscoll, Fritz Pollard, and George Hallis played and coached for the team.
Exactly.
I think you alluded to that earlier.
Yep.
Sports Genius 91, $5. Let's go. Us region people are excited. I'm from Logan Square and never considered Arlington as Chicago.
Which is funny because people from Hammond were like, or Northwest Indiana, we can say, like when people ask where I was from when I was little, I'd be like from Chicago.
Right.
That's what I would say.
And I was definitely the guy in Chicago. That would be
mad that someone like me would have the audacity to say I'm from Chicago.
Like when I got to Wisconsin and you'd meet people in the dorms and they'd be like, I'd be like, where are you from? I'm from Chicago. Oh, I am too. And they'll be like, what? And they'll be like, what part? I'm like, Lincoln Park. Where are you from? Crystal Lake. That's not what? No, that's not. You're not from Chicago. Stop it. I was definitely that guy.
Right.
That was an extreme example.
So I've gotten that a lot in my life, where like, you're not from Chicago. Quit trying to claim you're from Indiana. Like it's even more insulting than the suburbs, Illinois people that try to claim Chicago, right? To Chicagoans. But now the Bears are in Chicago. Or now the Bears could be in Northwest Indiana. So like, now what are you gonna say that to the Bears?
They're the Chicago Bears.
So if they're the Chicago
They're
Bears,
not changing the name.
Yeah.
Wasn't that like a threat once from the mayor? Like you're gonna have to change your name. Was that Lori Lightfoot? Who, by the way, was wearing Michigan gear at the Northwestern game last week?
Thomas McDermott was at, I should have sent these pictures, but I guess they're from his Facebook, so I probably shouldn't just be taking his pictures. But Thomas McDermott was at the Bears' playoff win over the Packers in the stands with his buddy.
That's nice. One more super chat from Captain Chemo 2023 says, back in December, someone I know with ties to the Arlington Heights said it's a done deal in Arlington Heights.
Welp. I mean, we'll see, man. I don't think it's done by any means. Here was Thomas McDermott's comment. I was looking for this. He said on December 18th when that was like right around when the Bears released a statement how they were moving their attention to Northwest Indiana. Thomas McDermott said on his Facebook page, sometimes the folks making the most noise have the least to say. So if you don't hear me shouting about it, just know I'm doing whatever I can to make sure if the Bears choose Northwest Indiana as their next location, that Hammond will be their choice.
Yeah.
So it has been interesting because I was wondering, like, Gary puts out their thing.
Portage.
And Iowa. And I'm like, what's Thomas McDermott doing? Because he's a wild card. Like I said, if you've ever been around him, like, he's a really good dude. He's just got a really big personality. Like if you go to the concerts, like he'll get on stage. Like he's a firecracker. Like and he's forward thinking. He's somebody that turned all that. Like I said, it was just some little rink-a-dink fair, and then all of a sudden he's got like Lil Wayne showing up there.
That is random. Like I remember you telling me about these concerts.
He almost started a riot when he had Lil Wayne there because like the amount of people that wanted to go to that concert. They from an infrastructure standpoint and police and they couldn't handle the amount of people that wanted to come there. But yeah, I've been telling you for years, like they're great concerts. So So like he's gone from this little fair to like big name, music artists coming in here. So he's like always trying to do like up the ante. Now this, the Bears, like it's crazy, but he's opportunistic. And the Bears, and there's the final picture there. That's a good one there.
Did you stage that?
I did.
That was really well done.
That was all, Jake, I was talking to him because I was like, all right, I'm driving over to Wolf Lake. What do I do? Do I just start harassing people that are on the street? Do I do video where I sound like an idiot? I did that. Check. Mm-hmm. I took some pictures, so I was just like, just tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. But here I am.
Show off your state, Greg.
Yeah, well, like you said, like it's a kind of a gloomy day, even though the
got some blue sky in there.
There's
like
a
that.
blue sky.
Yeah.
The temperature's kind of high, but yeah, it's not like when the trees are fully grown and the golf course looks beautiful. It's not like the best representation of that little area of Hammond. But I love it, and it's mine.
Good for you.
And it might be all of ours.
Well,
I'm excited for you guys to come to my cul-de-sac.
I was trying to think, actually, I guess we'd have to go there for the tailgates.
So what's interesting is my wife works at a private practice 2 minutes down the street from Wolf Lake.
Okay.
She's a nurse practitioner taking care of little kids. Shout out to Jenny. And so I was already telling Jake, and Jenny might be watching right now, so she'll be laughing when I say this, but we might be doing the tailgates in their parking lot.
Oh, you're already laughing.
I'm already.
You do realize
I'm already.
this stadium's gonna take like 4 years. You know that, maybe 3.
That's fine, but I'm just letting you know. Jenny, let your boss know. She's great. We're gonna be doing tailgates in our parking lot.
Yeah. All right. Just to summarize, I do want to, reiterate what we did off the top of the show. This is not a done deal. No one's saying that. But on the Indiana side of this, when I say that they're at the half-yard line or at the 1-yard line, whatever you want to put it, they are there on the Indiana side, like in terms of passing what needs to be passed. That's what this was today. Okay? And then it's got to get passed through the Capitol next week before their session closes. And Indiana basically has done everything that they can do to get the Bears to agree to come there. But until the Bears actually, say it themselves. Now, the statement this morning did seem meaningful, but it was not a full commitment to the state of Indiana. And I keep putting it this way, until there's actually a shovel in the ground, right? Because we saw what happened with the Patriots in New England, 1999. They're going to Hartford. There was a press conference. Robert Kraft was there. The deal was literally signed with the governor of Connecticut. It was happening. But until construction actually started, they changed their minds. There was contamination. There was also a better deal in Massachusetts, and they backed out. So it's important to keep what happened today was significant. What happened in the last 24 hours with them seemingly making progress in Illinois and then doing all this coming out in Indiana today was significant. Just the optics of all of it. But no, it is not a done deal. Does seem to be.
They're on the goal line. Indiana's doing a tush push, and the Bears need Nashawn Wright.
Well, that's a great way to bring this all. No, what they need is defensive linemen. That's a great way to bring this all full circle back to the football team, because even here they need defensive linemen to stop the tush push, which we're going to talk about on tomorrow's show. Team Marsh here with $5. Super Bowl was just in Santa Clara, an hour from San Francisco. Bears being 500 yards on the Indiana side of the Illinois-Indiana border will be a nothing burger for logistics.
Mostly correct.
Mostly correct. And honestly, that same issue exists if the Super Bowl is being played in Arlington Heights.
Except we need to build a new road over the toll road so we don't have to pay for the toll road.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and as John Clark's pointing out, the full Indiana House has to pass the bill. The governor has to sign it. That will almost certainly happen while you're in Indy next week. Big indication of that being the 24-0 vote today in that committee hearing. There certainly does not seem to be much opposition in Indiana. All right. We are going to wrap the show up right now. We'll be back tomorrow. We have a fun show for you. We're going to talk a little about the coaching changes that have happened. There was a promotion in the front office today as well. We're going to bring back a little bit of the Caleb conversation with Max Crosby as well for you. And
we're off to a press conference.
Yeah, we are actually going to a press conference right now in the state of Indiana, which is weird for me.
Show you around.
Can't wait. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.